Well, hello again, MGTOW. Welcome back. Welcome to my truck. As you see today, we happen to be driving, the computer that I bought in order to make MGTOW videos. It's just not giving me any more time to do so. So I have to make a video on the run. I got a ton of stuff I want to talk about. So let's get right to the point, right? I've been seeing some ugly videos on the internet. You got people that come into the MGTOW community with other agendas. They don't just bring their personality and maybe make a comment here and there regarding their lives or what they believe. No, they have a hidden agenda, right? A double take on the MGTOW philosophy, and they hit the wrong chord here because some of them are, they're coming to the MGTOW philosophy with an anti-immigration bent, and I'm not gonna go deep here into my immigration beliefs, right? I'm not gonna go into a deep debate about immigration, right? Because this is again a MGTOW channel, MGTOW, not immigration. But I do want to say that, if you don't want people marrying in order to obtain working documents, then don't pass the laws that that force them to do it. If you don't want people coming this way and competing for your women, right? And quite honestly, I mean, I've been all over this country, up and down, many times. 16 years a trucker, and quite honestly, I really don't see many immigrants competing for native-born women, and that is for that's true for immigrants of all nationalities, or rather national origins. You do see the occasional biracial couple, right, or a multiracial couple with with the man as the immigrant. But for the most part, American society is a very divided society, right? You arrive to one town and you see the blacks here, you see the spics there, you see the whites on the other side, right? The coons on the other side, right? So, hey, as much as you may try, right, it's just not taking place. The younger people are not having any of that, and so there's a lot of some people are in discontent because of that. But what can you do? So you either adapt to the new reality or you perish, and that's what's taking place here. With that out of the way, I want to say that for the most part, I've seen we're talking about people staying with their group. I saw another video here in the MGTOW community that in which one guy basically betrayed his people. It was a very ugly video. He betrayed his people, spoke ill of his people, and part of being a man is standing by your people. I'm going to give you an example of what you should sound like, when people speak ill of who you are, the very essence of who you are and where you come from, regardless of your race. And yes, I do mean regardless of your race, whether you're white, black, Hispanic, whatever, right? You have to stand by your people. Stand up for your people. That doesn't mean that you have to put somebody down. That's just the way that men used to do it in the days of yore. Right? You stand by your group, stand by your people. Doesn't mean you have to agree with everything. When they're wrong, they're wrong. Right? You don't have to be a groupie, but you also don't denounce your people in public. There was a MGTOW content producer that pointed out to me, in some other video when I was some other videos that I was, bringing to light some of the negatives in the manosphere. And he said, sweet Padre, he said, well, he didn't say it to me directly, but he said, you're causing division in the manosphere. And so I stopped doing that. I stopped criticizing what I saw was wrong in the manosphere, right? And so I'm not, I guess I'm kind of like the black sheep of the manosphere here, because I talk about ugly things. If you look at my channel, I talk about poisoning, I talk about suicide, I talk about, oh, we all talk about suicide, but I tend to talk about topics that can cause discomfort in some people, right? Real stuff. And so my intent here is not to divide the manosphere. I have deep appreciation for all my MGTOW brothers. The brothers whose contributions have been invaluable to me for this past couple of years. But I do want to point this out. And as the title of this video suggests, or is going to suggest, once I'm done with it, is that you should never, as a man, betray your own people, ever. It looks ugly on you. You see, when you speak ill of your own people, you speak ill of who you are as a person, yourself. And I said I was going to give you an example of what you should sound like, right? When you have to come to defend your people. In my case, me being Hispanic, right, and under all these attacks, I want to say that, my people have contributed immensely to this country. An exorbitant amount of hours of labor that this great nation of ours has benefited from. I myself happen to do a job that many people are unwilling to do. And the opportunities out here, it's still available. Companies, trucking companies, left and right, are willing to train anybody. They're willing to put anybody in the seat, regardless of who they are, right? They train you for free, and all you have to do is commit to usually 1 or 2 years of, of working for them, right? And you get your commercial driver's license for free. Well, it turns out many people are not willing to do it, despite the fact that trucking has become a much more easy occupation than it used to be in the days of paper logs. So here I am, doing the job that nobody wants to do. As glamorous as it may sound at first, many people abhor the idea of having to leave their families, their social life, and to struggle out here on the road for months on end. That's one thing. The other thing is that in the case of the Hispanic woman, right, I want to say our women, that is the Latin woman, is portrayed in the media, in the American media, as a low-down whore. And despite of the truth behind female nature, right? Our Latin women have held up pretty well in comparison to other women when it came to maintaining themselves. They're clean women. They are beautiful women. They usually do not fill their bodies with tattoo. For the most part, most of them, right? Many of our women still cook for their children the traditional Hispanic foods. And I am not idolizing women here or idolizing the Latin woman here. I'm certainly not. But this is again an example of what a man whose integrity and whose background is put into question. Is an example. This is an example of what he should sound like. Our food. This country loves Latin food, the best food in the world. Some people say that perhaps the best food is, French cuisine or whatever, which is rather pricey. And I mean, who wants to eat snails with spaghetti, right? And some other people say that maybe Indian food with all the spices, but I think the the spicing on Indian foods is rather strong. And our people have managed to whip up a fantastic cuisine out of what colonialism left them. See, after even after 500 years of colonialism, European colonialism and neo-colonialism, our people stand with pride and strength, and they look forward into the future, coming into this country to to serve this nation. Right? Many in the armed services as well. We serve in a disproportionate amount as a percentage of the population in the American Armed Forces. The other thing is that a lot of the territory here in the United States was at one point under the control of Mexico, or present, what is considered Mexico today. Many of the states in these United States are in Spanish. They're named in Spanish. California was named after a Spanish novel of the time. And we have Colorado means colorful, Florida means flowery, Arizona means arid land, and there are a couple of other states. I forget. Nevada means snow. It's like snow peak, right? It translates loosely to something like snow peak in Spanish. So a lot of these states are in Spanish, and that's because many of the people that have been are living in those regions today have been there since before the British arrived. The British immigrants, and before the year 1948. We're talking 1946 to 1948. Before 1946, excuse me, 1846 to 1848, about 150 years ago. Mexico granted U.S. citizenship. Mexican citizenship. There was no border, no talk of a border like that. And Mexico granted it was Mexican citizenship to any enterprising American who would want to come and become a Mexican citizen. It was a matter of pride becoming a Mexican citizen, much like it is today to become an American. And no, I am not Mexican. But it's worth remembering our history, the common land that we share, as opposed to choosing to divide our people along national borders and some other artificial constructs. And so I'm very proud of my people. Very proud of our beautiful poetic language. Our literature it's been a literature that's been admired and renowned throughout the world. Our poets and our writers. We are a people of valor. We were among the first to have a vision for a united America, and by an America I mean the entire continent. And this was before, or rather just after the French Revolution there, right? So, and we started with that, right? There were several countries in South America that have similar flags, and it's because of the bravery and the vision of our people. Latin America is a rich continent with people from all over the world. In fact, after World War II, many people came to Latin America, fleeing war-torn Europe. And it wasn't the first time they came from Europe, and they've managed to integrate themselves in our society. So anyways, I'm not going to go on with this. You get the idea. Never speak ill of your people, regardless of who you are, whether you're black, white, You know, if you're white, you can talk about the ingenuity of your people. You know, how your people have built and invented things, right? And ventured forward to discovering new lands, right? You can talk about, you know, if you're black, you can talk about the history that you have as, you know, of your people is coming from Egypt and from what it is, you know, from what is today still the wealthiest continent on earth, which is Africa, right? And you can talk about, you know, the beautiful traditions of so forth and so on. Never speak ill of your people. I want to repeat. It's you're shitting on yourself when you do that. Okay, so that was part 1 of the video. Part 2 of the video, it has to do with the creation of a slave mentality, right? And how people end up, you know, basically hating themselves in the eyes of their masters. And no, I'm not talking here about race. I am talking about servitude, which is what we you know, tend to refer to here in the MGTOW community, right? When we talk about women, the servitude of men to women. If you're out here without a shirt, you know, making a video without a shirt on, talking about you want 2 women in your life, 2 or 3 women in your life, then you're in the wrong part of the manosphere. Because here in the MGTOW community, we talk about walking away from that very same set of circumstances. You may want to consider becoming a traditional conservative in a Middle Eastern country or in a Middle Eastern way, or you may want to consider becoming a pickup artist. And there are guys out there who are successful at that if you're able to find the right source of information. I'm not gonna go over this. I have already put a video together addressing this, you know, the source of that information and how I came out of the pickup artistry community and into MGTOW. I wasn't too detailed about it because it wasn't my intent to be detailed about it. So, but do consider becoming something other than a MGTOW brother, because if that's what you want, again, you're in the wrong part of the manosphere. MGTOW is for guys that want to move against or move away from a gynocentric society, a society that is dominated by women. We recognize women's nature and we move away from that nature and from their actions and the worshiping of women, so that we may live freer lives alone together in this electronic medium here. We share stories and tips and ideas and beliefs, so that we may individually seek to better ourselves and become more free. So that's that. Now onto the mindset of a slave, right, and how it's created. One of the ways in which the slave mentality, and I do mean again slave, I mean servitude. I don't mean slavery has nothing to do with race. There were slaves, you know, white on white slaves and black on black slaves in Africa, and white on white slaves in Europe, and slavery has existed throughout history, you know, in a multitude of different people, right? So I hope that delivers you know, drives the message home. But the other thing is that so how is a slave created, right? How do people end up hating themselves, talking, speaking ill of themselves, right? Oh, very simple. They have a woman. Let's just say it's a woman, because we're in the MGTOW community. They have a woman that constantly puts them down, right? She starts by pretending that she's his friend, and what happens afterwards, inevitably, is that, you know, there's there's a switch up, right? But before the switch up, there's this very important key here, right? This very important step, and that is that the victim must be isolated. So a lot of these guys find themselves in isolation. It's part of how you end up creating a slave. You isolate the guy, make him believe that he's powerless, right? This involves some sort of move, right? The guy moves in with the woman, right? Or he has her moving with him, and she begins her process of dividing and conquering, right? Separating him from his family and friends. So isolation is key to creating a slave mentality. This is the way in which women have men serve them, and serve them well, in the plantation. Isolation. Sometimes this may involve some sort of transportation, right? In a more sinister way, it can mean, you know, kidnapping somebody and putting them in the basement, right? Sort of stuff. And in that way, you know, you haven't been able to have a chance to go on to the next step, which is the conversion step, right? And this other step is it involves abuse. You have to abuse your victim. So a lot of these people that end up speaking ill of their own kind, they've been abused. They've been abused by their perpetrators for years on end, at times. And in other occasions, you know, that abuse may even be physical, right? Such as the presence of the Gestapo or some other police force in a minority neighborhood. Forces that tend to abuse the general population. So step one is, the perpetrator pretends that they're your friends. Step two, the victim gets transported and isolated. Step three, you have to break the victim. You have to break them in. You perform an act of violence toward them, or a series of acts of violence, and this violence can be physical or mental. And step four, so once the victim is broken down, right, as a perpetrator, your job is to rebuild that person to your liking, right? You give them the beliefs you want them to believe, right? You give them a new identity, right? This is, it amazes me. Let me tell you guys a story. I'm vegan, and I usually go to, Asian restaurants across the country, right? And sometimes I walk into an Asian restaurant simply because I enjoy eating some of the vegetables that you can only get in those places, right? Preparing them, with my food. And I walk in these places and I see that they have on the wall a god that looks nothing like them. It looks nothing like what they look like, right? Doesn't even begin to resemble an image of what what their god may look like. And so this is a god that was given to them. And how is it that these people ended up with this, right? Well, they were broken. That's the simple answer. They were broken and they were rebuilt as people. They were abused, broken, and rebuilt. And they were given a new identity, right? So that's the next step, or part of that same step, the rebuilding, the giving your victim a new identity. And this is what women do, right? Sometimes this new identity may have to do with turning a man into a father, right? That gives them a new identity. It transforms the victim. So that was an example. It's an ugly example, right? But hey, that's what came to mind here. And I haven't been seeing too many beautiful things out here lately, so maybe that's what you know, that's one of the reasons why that came up. So, and no, I don't have a hidden agenda. I don't care about people believing this or that or the other. I'm not giving anybody an identity here. My only intent is to disseminate MGTOW philosophy with its 3 core tenets, and it's one basic principle, right? The premise of MGTOW is that you're better off by walking away. We operate under the premise that man is better off being free. And so where were we? We were in step 4, right? You have to rebuild your victim. You give him a new identity, give him a new something to believe in, right? Something that benefits you as the perpetrator. This is what women do to men. This is how they break them down, right? This is the process that women utilize. It's the same process that, you know, some cults utilize, right? And in some places, even some military forces and some non-profit organizations, ideological organizations, utilize this process in order to change a person and make them conform to the group, right? And as part of giving them that new identity, you give them new friends too. Give them a new group of people to call friends, right? Introduce new words in the vocabulary. Tell them that they're something that they weren't before, right? And you know, this is the way that horses used to be trained. They were first broken. They were broken. They were tied up and beaten, right? To break a horse, right? That's how it used to be done. And it's the same with people, right? And women, you know, figuratively speaking, they tie up men, but they tie up men with mental chains. And you never want to be that guy. You never want to be the man that is tied up by a woman or by some other form of oppressor, to the point where you end up hating yourself and speaking against yourself in front of the world or in front of the cameras for everyone else to see, because your oppressor will love nothing else than to see that you are doing just that, speaking against yourself and speaking in their favor. So there you have it, those four steps. And there may be more, right? There may be some other steps involved, but I'm not going to go into that. But this is how a lot of men are broken. They find a new friend, and then before they know it, they're you know, transported into a new dimension, and then they're broken down and rebuilt. And after that, when their usefulness is done, they're finally discarded. Don't be that guy. Don't be that guy to women, and don't be that guy to anybody else for that matter. And last but not least, I want to thank you for watching. Do consider subscribing. Give this video a thumbs up, and I'll catch you in the very next one. Thank you.